Enchanted Arms is a console-style role-playing game from Ubisoft and From Software for the Xbox 360. It's the first Japanese RPG for the Xbox 360, but other than that, it really doesn't have any distinct features. It's very typical of the Japanese style of role-playing game. You have a lot of androgynous, spiky-haired teenage characters running around this world that's about to be destroyed by these humans who are fussing with magic that's way too powerful for them to be fussing with. And you get in a lot of random encounters, fight some crazy-looking bosses, and so on and so forth, and develop your characters. And that's really about it for this game. That said, it is a pretty solid RPG and should satisfy fans of the genre. Enchanted Arms follows the story of Atsuma, who is a young enchanter who awakens this strange power in his right arm. The power is related to these golems, which are these magic creatures that humans created 1,000 years ago in order to act as sort of servants. Now, back when these golems were first created, all of a sudden they went out of control one day and started tearing apart the world. There were these super powerful golems called devil golems that were eventually sealed away in these magical fortresses so that they couldn't be revived and destroy the world yet again. Flash forward 1,000 years, and there's a few people who are messing around with the magic seals to try to gain some of this magic power that had been lost for the last 1,000 years. This causes all kinds of problems. The golems go crazy again, start destroying these cities. It's your job as Atsuma to find out how the power in your right arm plays into this golem uprising and how you're able to save the world. The nuts and bolts of the game are pretty simple. The battle system, though, is actually kind of unique and is pretty fun and somewhat challenging. All the battles take place on this 6x4 grid that's divided down the center. All of your characters are on one side and all the enemy characters are on the other side. When it's your turn, you can move your characters and assign commands in any order that you see fit, and then you hit the go button and all the attacks are carried out. The key to the battle is you have to understand your character's attack patterns to match up with the positioning of the enemies on the other side of the battlefield. So you might have a character who has a lot of ranged attacks, but that won't really do you a lot of good against an enemy who is going in close for direct attacks. It's almost kind of a puzzle game in that you have to really figure out the positioning of your characters and the order in which to move them in order to win a battle. There's not a lot of in-depth strategy or tactics required, but it is a little bit more than just hitting the attack command over and over and over like you would in most Japanese role-playing games. Most of the game is spent running from point A to point B, whether you're in a dungeon or traveling from town to town on a mission. As you're running throughout these worlds, you'll get into these random encounters every few steps. The cool thing about the battles is that you can collect all these golems. Now basically, it's just kind of a roundabout way of recruiting these enemy creatures to join your party. There are about 100 in all that you can collect throughout the game. They're actually all fairly diverse and they all have their use. Each golem has these unique characteristics and unique attacks that you can use to battle certain enemies as the situation demands. The presentation in Enchanted Arms is fairly unimpressive. Some of the spell effects and some of the battle animations look pretty cool, but for the most part, this kind of looks like a shiny Xbox game. It doesn't help that a lot of the environments are these huge open areas that just feel completely dead. There's just no life whatsoever. It makes for a pretty dull experience when you're running from one point to another and then off and back again. There's also a good amount of humor in the game, which really goes a long way in keeping your attention during these lengthy story sequences. Unfortunately, the English voice acting really is kind of annoying, especially in battle when you hear the same few phrases over and over and over again. The game will take you a good 40 hours to get through, and it demands a bit of patience because the story takes a while to get rolling, and then there are some parts during the game that actually tend to drag a little bit. For the most part though, it's a pretty good value because you'll be spending a lot of time collecting all these golems. That said, the game is very linear, so once you beat it once, there's really no incentive to go through and play it again. Overall, Enchanted Arms is a good, solid role-playing game that really doesn't have any distinct features, but should satisfy fans of the genre.